Okay. 115. Nunc. Pretty simple now. It was not him, to whom. We have two males here, pronouns. One's the accusative, the other's the dative, showing that. So it was not him to whom Sextus Roscius mandated the matter, the rem, said, but this, quod which, gravis est, multo, so multo is an adverb by much, so it is more gravius, more serious by much, that Sextus Roscius himself, with his fama, his reputation, and his vitae, his life, and bonus qui omnibus, and all these goods, were mandatus est, mandated to T. Roscius by the decurion publicly. Okay. So decurions are plural. Anyway, and et from ea, and from this, Titus Roscius, non paululum, not a little bit, nesce quid, literally means I don't know what, but it could be something or anything. So something that is not small, he has converted into his own ram, into his own benefit, or even ram sometimes means profit or how much money you have. But hunk again, fundatus is a cool little adverb, means fully, basically. And he's everted, he's thrown out this guy from his goods, from his own property or estate, and himself, ipsi, has got tria praedia. Praedias are estates or farms. And he depectus means he's made a pact or a deal for this, sibi, for himself. The voluntatem decurium, so the will of the decurions and of all of the municipums, these are people in the same town or city, and tented them in the same amount as much as his own freedom, his own believability, or his own, what do we call that? His own trustworthiness. Feck it, he's done this. So we'll have a daily dictionary. Fundatus, top 2,000 words. Adverb, from the bottom to the ground by the root. So it's the fundatus bit, like with foundation. But simply can mean utterly, completely, without exception. Okay, 116, videt. It's a imperative plural. So see, yam now, poro, forwards or furthermore. Judges, these are the jurymen in the vocative. The cetera, the rest of the things, ut, so that, intellegus, you can understand that is null impossible. It's not possible, finge, to be created or made some maleficum, some bad deed, by which isti, this guy himself, has not contaminated himself. So he hasn't performed anything which he has not stained himself with or polluted himself with, you might want to say. The load puts fingi as you can imagine that there's no maleficum, no bad deed he hasn't contaminated himself with. So, in rebus minoribus, in minor details, it is very turpissimus, it's very foul, the est is taking the infinitive, it's very foul to deceive a socium, that's someone who's your acquaintance or your friend, and equally turpe. So this is justifiably turpe, this thing, concerning which, de quo, I have dixide anti, I've said before. Nequi inuria. This comes from injustice. So there's injustice, propteria quad, besides because he is thinking that he has had yongsid, putat's a head verb taking in the infinitive. So he thinks he has joined himself to an auxilium, a help to whom he has communicated or associated with in this matter, when in fact he is another type. So therefore, igator, so he wants to confugate. So when it comes to getting away from this, so if he's been betrayed, basically, it's who can he flee to, when as through his own freedom, through his own trust, he has been injured, and this has been by the person to whom he has commiserated. He is given his trust, he's, how do you want to say that? Anyway, long story short, he's joined himself to someone who thinks he can trust, and anyway, where can he go when this trust is betrayed, when he's actually hurt by the person who he committed his freedom to? Ad qui sunt. And these things, animadvertenda. It's a verb used for noticing and for judging, and also with the accusative for punishment as well. So, peccato, as we know, it's like a sin or a wrongdoing, and maxime means maxime. So these things, which are, a sin of done wrong, these have should have the greatest punishment, probably says, which are very difficult to take precautions against, precaventur. So I'll just read a footnote about fides. Fides appears to be used in two sentences: honour and good faith, and also belief in the honour of others. Okay, if that helps anyone about fides. So, possumus. We should be able to be tecti, protected or covered towards aliens when we're dealing with foreign people. But with the intimates, these are our friends and people we live closely with, it is necessary vidiant, that they may see things much more apertoria, much comparative, much more openly they have to see, because they're on intimate terms with us. So, who is possumus? Who is able to carvere against the socium? Who's able to guard against a friend? Whom even, si metu imus, if we fear, whom even if we fear our friend, we are latimus, we are harming the jus officii, this right or law of duty. So, it's a twofold thing really. If you fear even your close friends, it's a hospitality sort of law you're breaking, I suppose. So recte, rightly, igitur, therefore, our mayors, our ancestors, him who fefelicit, that's a reduplicated perfect, he was deceived a socium, an ally or friend, should non-putret, should not able oportore, to be, ought to be able to be habere, considered in the number of good men. So, in ancient times, the ancestors thought that someone who deceived a friend should not be considered one of the good men in society. So I guess his reputation got out. We see Famer up here mentioned. Yep. 117, at vero, two but words. So I'll take that other vero as truth. So, but truthfully, Titus Roscius, and not one fulfill it socium did he deceive, to do with re pecunia in the matter of money. So it wasn't just one person regarding this money he deceived. Pecunia is a neuter. So we'll go, but temenetsi, nevertheless, even, if you take that C at the end. So that by itself, you might want to say, is grave, serious, which is a serious thing to defraud or deceive one person. But tamen, nevertheless, modo aliqui, in some way, it should seem, videtur, able to, you should be able to bear it in some sort of way if you've been deceived by one person. But here we have verum, but, what have we got? Novem homines honestimus, so this is the superlative. 9 very honest men, or you might want to say stronger than honest, you might want to say important men, or whatever you want to say. Eustum, of the same munus, of the same function or duty, legates, those mandatorum qui socius, okay, so the officers of his allies, he's inducted it, so he's inducted these deceits against 9 honest men, those same duty, the legates, and so he's accepted. He is decepted, he's deceived, he is destituted, so he's deserted, he has tradited them to adversaries, taken the dative, so he's handed them over to the enemies. Omne fraud, all types of fraud, and perfidia, which is treachery, he has fulfilled, he has deceived. Okay, so he's really painting a picture here. Qui, this is these people that he's been deceived, they potwerer, they were able to nothing to be suspicious. We saw suspicious the other day as the Daily Dictionary. It doesn't mean suspicious; it can mean anxious as well. Of Eos, of him concerning his sclerae, his crimes. So they thought they didn't have any suspicion or anxiety about the crimes he would do. Non-debit, they not ought to fear associum in the duty. So someone you're working with or dealing with. And they did not inveterate. They didn't see his maliciousness, his malitiam. Sometimes I think the Loeb translated as being a rascal, but it probably looks stronger than that. And they credited. They believed his empty orations, his empty words. Itakui. And so accordingly, now, Ili Omene's honesty, these are very honest man, propter on account of the insidious istius of his treachery. They are putant, or that's the passive, they are thought to be parum, leastly, cautious, for we see just as the infinitive, it's a head verb, puto, even in the passive, so it takes the infinitive. So they were thought to be leastly cautious and foreseeing. Pro video, the video means to see, pro means to see ahead or into the future. Isti. Again, it's got a bit of a nasty aspect to it, that pronoun. Him who was initio in former times, at the beginning setting out, he was a prodigy, he was a betrayer, and then a perfugo, then he became a fugitive. He who enuntiated, he announced, taking the dative, to the adversaries, the primo concilies, the first councils or the plans of the allies, Socoriums. He announced this to the enemies, basically, and then had a societatem, he had an alliance, and he coeted, he met and joined with these adversaries themselves. He was terroret. It means the scare or frighten. They frighten, and even minotaur, they threaten us. So they terrify and threaten us. Looks like he is ornatus. He's decorated with tribus praetus, 3 farm estates. This is the praemis. This is the reward or payment for his scelus, for his crimes. Sometimes it means deed. Here it means crime. Almost done. So, in eis modi vitae, in his way of life, or something like that, you might want to say, juryman, vocative, judices, in his tot and tantus, you see this put together a few times, so many and such types of flagitus, disgraces, so many times and so many types of disgraces. Hoc also, this also, repederus, you shall find, de quia judicamus malefic. So yeah, you also find this maleficum, this evil deed, amongst this thing which we are now judging. Basically, that's what the Latin says.